What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. And you know, Script Trooper put this tweet up on Twitter. And by the way, if you aren't following Script Trooper, go ahead and do that right now. Guy always has very interesting commentary. His YouTube channel as well. Go ahead and give both of those a look. But he says here, they will never get audiences to love Rey like they love Luke Skywalker. And of course, he's 100% correct, all right? Like, Luke Skywalker is one of the greatest characters that's ever been conceived or written. And he has withstood the test of time because of that reason, because he is a well-written, well-conceived character. George Lucas, okay, he understood the art and the craft of myth making and storytelling, which is why he could create a character like Luke Skywalker, okay? He understood the fundamentals and he stayed faithful to those fundamentals, all right? And anytime you stick with the fundamentals, you can't go wrong. This is the stuff that we don't see in Hollywood anymore, okay? And this is the reason why Luke Skywalker is still going to stand preeminently above a lot of Star Wars characters because of how he was written, okay? But he talks about loving Rey, right? It's like, oh, they'll never love Rey. Well, why not? Well, you can't fall in love with a character who really isn't a character, all right? Rey isn't a character, right? She's a trope, okay? A wish-fulfilling trope. That's what she comes off as, all right? Whether or not that's how J.J. Abrams and whoever wrote the character, I think it was Lawrence Kasdan also, regardless of how they conceived this character and wrote this character, she is poorly conceived, she is poorly developed, she is nothing but a caricature, right, of a girl boss feminist, okay? That's basically who she is, all right? Everything comes to her. She gets everything she wants very easily and very readily without really having to work that hard for it. All right. And anytime you have a character like that, that's just going to come off as phony and fake to a whole lot of people. People aren't going to be into that. It's about the character herself and how she was written when contrasted to how Luke was written. The main thing that I think that we run into as a problem with Rey is her story arc and her journey. OK, her journey is a path of self-discovery type of story. That's what Rey is supposed to be on in any case. All right. She's nobody from nowhere. Who are you? What's your identity? Where you come from? You know, it's a path of self-discovery, right? That's Rey's story. It's a poorly written one, but nevertheless, that's what the story, in my opinion, is about. Versus Luke. Like, Luke's story isn't that. Luke knows who he is, okay? Luke's story, he's grown up with a family. He has his identity. He has values in place. He's interested in who he will become, all right? He knows who he is, he's grown up, and now he's launching off into the world. Who is he going to be? Who is he going to become? That's the Luke Skywalker story, again, in my opinion. And again, this was the point of myth making that George Lucas was talking about, okay? George Lucas said he created Star Wars that he could pass information on to the next generation, pass on values to the next generation of people. Hey, we got young kids coming up, 12 years old, right? They're about to enter into the world. Again, this is the stuff you need to look at. I've discussed it before. I'll link the video above where I talked about that. This is one of the reasons that Star Wars has really lasted through the test of time. It's because Lucasfilm wasn't just doing like sci-fi, fantasy, you know, action adventure, blah, blah, blah. That's it, right? They're actually telling real stories about real values that people could pass on, stuff that resonates deeper than just what's going on in the story world, okay? And that's what these cats in Lucasfilm have forgotten. They don't have the vision that I explained previously that you need in order to take this franchise forward. Now, recently, somebody at Collider wrote this particular article, as you can see, for the last time. Rey is not a Mary Sue, damn it! Can Star Wars fans stop criticizing Daisy Ridley's Rey and give her the credit she deserves? No, we're going to continue to criticize this terrible character, okay? I'm going to get into this deep, okay? Because this article, I mean, cracked me up first and foremost, okay? It cracked me up. Let's go ahead and start reading. Now, I'm not going to go through too much of this opening paragraph, okay? Because it's just a lot of gobbledygook. It's kind of just setting up what he's about to talk about. And then he talks about what exactly is a Mary Sue. But I'm going to talk about how he describes the Mary Sue character. Let's deal with his definition of what it is. So he says, let's define this Mary Sue label that people attribute to Rey. And he's talking about it from the standpoint of this Star Trek menagerie, a Star Trek fanzine created by these two women that received countless of fan-written stories that had a pattern of including a self-insert female character that were consistently so perfect that all the other characters would fawn over them. Seeing this pattern led to the naming of Mary Sue, both to describe the character archetype and the types of stories she was in. Over time, the term has evolved into a character archetype attributed to female characters that are essentially too good to be true. All right, so here's what they talk about right here. Characters that seem to be unexplainably talented, unreasonably attractive and lacked flaws or weaknesses that made them compelling characters. Common criticisms of characters that were labeled as Mary Sue's were that they felt poorly written and more self-insert wish fulfillment than genuinely compelling characters. And then, of course, it goes on, it says, yeah, they started using Gary Stu to describe the male characters, or the manic pixie dream girl, which is another entirely complicated arc for story types. Okay, Rey is pretty much saying, oh, they say, well, she's unfortunately becoming one of the go-to examples of this term. And she is, all right? Let's go ahead and get into why he thinks Rey isn't a Mary Sue. So, why do people think Rey is a Mary Sue? The label got attached to the character after her introduction in The Force Awakens, as fans saw Rey's skill and competence as unexplained and poorly written. However, a secondary look at her narrative arc and story beats should help highlight the genuine character development and evolution she undergoes to become a powerful and important player in the Star Wars universe. We meet Rey as an orphan scavenger on the desolate planet of Jakku, delving deep into crashed Imperial starships for spare parts to sell morsels of food. As with all important Star Wars character, her destiny quickly came to meet her, and she was whisked away on a planetary adventure. However, her talents and skills that made her indispensable to the Resistance would soon be nitpicked and criticized by fans. How could she be so good at flying the Millennium Falcon? How could she hold her own against Kylo Ren in a lightsaber duel when he had so many more years of training? These short-sighted observations led directly to Rey being identified as a Mary Sue, with all the negative associations around it. Right off the bat, you can tell where this guy is going with it, okay? He's going to explain all of this stuff away. Plenty of times we've seen all of these, but let's humor him. Let's hear what he's got to say. Let's take a second at these allegedly unrealistic moments in Rey's story. How could she fly the Falcon so adeptly? Her character was literally shown to have a competent understanding of spacecrafts from her years of scavenging and her use of an AT-AT at her actual home. So why wouldn't she have an understanding of the basic mechanics of flying a Star Wars ship? And even if she seemed exceptionally talented at flying, isn't that sort of how talent works? Talent is something that can be undiscovered and come naturally, and that's not even putting into consideration her force sensitivity that surely contributed to her reflexes and precision. In the two trilogies before her, two Skywalkers demonstrated flying feats that are similarly, if not more, unreasonable than Rey. Anakin at 9 years old successfully destroyed a droid ship, and Luke's Death Star tunnel run is still one of the most miraculous moments in the entire franchise. It's important to take a moment to double check that we're not falling into double standards with fan commentary. Look. These arguments this guy is making is just excuses for bad writing. That's all it is, okay? Is being a scavenger, right? Her years of scavenging, is that like equal to being an ace pilot, all right? I mean, seriously, I'm serious. You can say, yeah, maybe she picked up a few things along the way, playing around inside the scavenger stuff, and you learn how to fix stuff. Okay, she's a mechanic. I can accept that, all right? But saying that she is somehow an ace pilot because she spent years of scavenging and she lived in an AT-AT, that makes her a great pilot all of a sudden, all right? Even if we give her some credit of knowing like the basics of piloting a starship, all right? Han, talk to me.
Look, good against remotes is one thing. Good against the living, that's something else.
Think about this, y'all. It's one thing to know how to drive a car, like even well, okay? It's one thing to know how to drive a car. It's another thing to be out there at NASCAR, all right? For the first time ever, all right? Driving against other skilled drivers, okay? You know what I'm saying? And somehow coming out on top, right? Like, yeah, maybe she could get behind the wheel of the Falcon and fly, all right? All right, let's go with that. But now she's outmaneuvering two trained TIE fighter pilots in a full-fledged battle situation with her life on the line and no co-pilot at all, right? No co-pilot, okay? And it's for the very first time. And look, when he's talking about Luke's Death Star tunnel run, okay, look, Luke is a trained pilot, all right? They spent the whole movie, all right? The Death Star tunnel run don't happen until like the very end of the film, right? The Millennium Falcon stuff, that was in Rey's movie in Force Awakens. That's at the beginning, okay? So throughout the original film, Star Wars A New Hope, they built up to the fact that Luke is a good pilot, okay? They even had, like, Biggs come out and said, oh, yeah, he's like the best bush pilot in the whole Outer Rim, okay? He had talked about being a pilot. His friends were all pilots. They all went off to the academy. He had to stay there with Uncle Owen. But, you know, we knew what Luke was capable of, okay? They built it up throughout the movie so it doesn't come off as jarring as it does when you're talking about Rey just jumping into the Millennium Falcon and having this incredible, like, oh man, shoot, I gotta get out of here, wow, wow, flipping deuce, doop, doop, doop. It's like, hey man, where'd you learn all of that? You know, like that's the first thing you start thinking about. Well, maybe they'll explain it throughout the story, but at the very beginning, it's like this chick already knows how to fly the Millennium Falcon. You know, it just came off as phony. And when it comes to the double standards with fan commentary, let me just say this. You know, Star Wars has always had and probably always will have that, you know, quote unquote, certain point of view style of storytelling. Okay. All right. They use it in the films constantly. Right. And that's just, you know, a way to kind of get around badly written points. Oh, you wrote yourself in the corner. Oh, shoot. Okay. We got to change that up. Yeah. Vader killed Anakin Skywalker from a certain point of view. You know, again, that's the kind of stuff that Star Wars does within their own films. Okay, so it makes sense that a lot of fans do that same kind of crap. All right, they use that certain point of view storytelling style to just explain away all the bad writing and all the bad plot points. But bro, this is ridiculous. Okay, this is just lazy what you're trying to put out here. Like, honestly, Anakin at 9 years old destroying a droid ship is kind of a lazy example. Okay, because a lot of people don't agree with it. Okay. And again, that's where I go back to, you know, Star Wars has this kind of built-in excuse machine. Anytime that they want to say, oh man, this is a dumb character. This character is poorly written. Okay, well, and we'll just go ahead and explain it away with Anakin Skywalker blowing up a droid ship at age 9. Okay, and honestly, Anakin just kind of stumbled and bumbled his way into destroying that droid ship. It's not really a strong argument, okay? He just got lucky, okay? And it wasn't the Force, all right? He's just like, all right, let's just do this, let's do that. And then next thing you know, he's destroying the droid ship. And hey, everybody, you know, whatever, okay? Silly, childish luck. That's how we saw it, okay? We didn't see that as him harnessing the Force at a young age and using the Force, even though we know that's a part of it. The second main critique against Rey was her ability to hold her own against Kylo Ren in the duel. Well, to begin with, Rey was an isolated individual in Jakku who had to learn how to defend herself with her staff for years, even as a young girl. That's more practical combat training than Farm Boy Luke ever had. Well, hold on, time out. Yeah, Farm Boy Luke didn't defeat like a Sith master in melee combat with a weapon he had never picked up before in the first film, okay? Yeah, so there's that. And as a reminder, Kylo Ren had just undergone some incredible emotional trauma, which tends to happen after you commit patricide, and suffered some immense injuries from a Wookiee bowcaster and a serious blow from Finn's own attempt to use a lightsaber. Ren was unfocused and fighting with a handicap, but even still, Rey was never portrayed to actually be a superior fighter. Let's not be subversive and ignore all the setup, circumstances, and Force connection that made these moments possible. Yeah, and this is again where it's really falling apart for this guy, all right? Because the problems with Rey started before that, right? Rey was using the Force in ways Luke never did in his first movie, okay? She pilots an unfamiliar ship, okay? She uses Jedi mind abilities and she defeats a trained Force user. Could you make an argument that Luke was put in a similar situation? Sure you can, but you would be wrong, okay? Luke didn't master Jedi mind tricks in his first film. As I said, Luke didn't defeat Vader in single combat, all right? Regardless of what was going on with him. Man, can you imagine if Luke had to go up against Vader in the first movie? He would have died quickly. Even if Vader was injured. Injury probably would have just pissed Vader off even more. And, you know, he's correct here. Yeah, Kylo Ren was, you know, kind of compromised. You know, he was distracted. He was emotional. He was injured, okay, after all of this stuff had happened to him, all right? But Rey was also, you know, similarly conflicted. Remember, Rey had just been taken on a whirlwind adventure, right? She had been captured. She witnessed Han Solo's death, okay, who she was starting to view as some sort of a father figure. And now she's here fighting in this foreign, snowy, cold environment, right? She comes from a desert planet. So she's fighting in an unfamiliar environment with a weapon she's never used before against a fully trained Force user. And she was losing. I want you guys to keep this important thing in mind. She was losing. All Kylo Ren had to do was say the word Force.
I could show you the ways of the Force.
suddenly she's a badass. Yeah, I don't buy this crap, okay? I don't buy it. People don't buy the character, okay? It feels forced. Again, this is stuff that comes out of poor writing, okay? We could go on all day long about how Luke was different, all right? But it was really because he was relatable. That's why he's an enjoyable character. That's why people like him, okay? Because you can almost see yourself as Luke Skywalker, all right? Not necessarily saying his circumstances and the stuff that he was going through, but his personality, okay? You can see his personality, the way he approached the world, okay? And I mean, there's moments where how he was in the first film, he's coming off as brash, impatient, unfocused, right? He's kind of impulsive, but he always wants to do the right thing, right? There's a certain nobility to him. He's noble. He's forthright. He's considerate. See, the thing is Rey is a character problem, okay? Because when you have to say, oh, well, the Force, the Force is the reason that explains all of this stuff, all right? When you gotta use the Force to make excuses and explain away your character problems, that's that Deus Ex Machina kind of stuff, right? The God in the machine, all right? Well, the script needs this to happen, and we have this magical thing called the Force where we can just explain anything that we want to explain away, all right? And that usually happens when you have a badly written character. People will gloss over it and forget about all of the problems, all of the Deus Ex Machina stuff. If you have a very interesting character, they won't even pay attention to that stuff. Some people will, but a lot of people won't. They'll just be like, man, I enjoyed the character anyway, okay? I didn't really care about all of this stuff. Though, there's Force connections. That's what explains everything, That's why she's so overpowered, because she has the Force. All right. Again, this right here explains exactly why there are so many problems in modern Hollywood is because they keep going back to, well, we just need to make it work in the script and we have excuses built into the story. As long as that stuff is there, we're A-okay. So how did Rey grow in the sequel? She didn't. Straight up, she didn't. Of course, Rey's story arc was not entirely isolated in The Force Awakens, so how did her character develop in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker? In The Last Jedi, Rey trains under legendary Jedi Luke Skywalker, who begins her formal training with the Force. Throughout the film, a previously unseen Force connection between her and Kylo Ren develops, which comes to an head when faced with Supreme Leader Snoke. Ignoring his master's orders, Ren usurps his teacher, forcing him and Rey to fight his Praetorian Guard. The common critique here is based around the pair's synergy in combat and Rey's rapidly growing force and combat skill. Once again, the setup for these moments were already built up. The Force connection between Rey and Ren was integral to both their narratives, highlighting a connection between the two that transcended typical relationships. Yeah, see, once again, man. All of this is plot work, okay? This is not character work. This is the reason why nobody likes this character. How did this character develop? She didn't develop. She was just given things. Oh, here's a power. Here's a Force connection that you had no ability to develop on your own. The writer literally wrote stuff that just explained away the character's abilities, okay? But the character herself was kind of a moot point. Like I said before in a previous video, Finn has more of a story arc in The Last Jedi than Rey does. She's the same exact character she was in The Force Awakens, and she does no growth whatsoever. All she does is just get more powers at the end of the day, all right? The Force has always been able to vastly increase a person's skills, so Rey's immense growth is entirely within the laws of the Star Wars universe. But this isn't the problem, bro. See, the laws of the Star Wars universe, as you're talking about, in order to create a character that makes sense using those same laws, like Rey should have been training to do something like this. This is how I see it. Instead of just giving her this Force connection, maybe she has to train. Maybe she has to meditate of trying, attempts, fails, try it again, fail again. Oh, shoot, man, I'm not getting it, okay? And then finally when she gets it, then on the other end, she feels that connection, okay? And she's like, I'm trying to connect to this thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to reach out and touch it. None of that happens. It just happens, okay? She just gets the power. And you know what I mean? Like, that's the issue, okay? So the laws of the universe are one thing, but how does she come about her powers? That's a completely different story. Her discovery of her new Force abilities is not a record. Again, it's discovery. She's not training. She's not mastering. She's not developing as the story rises and grows. She's just discovering. Oh, look what I found. I found power. Okay? That's the problem. She didn't earn it. You have to earn stuff. And that's the difference. Luke earned it. Anakin, you could say, was kind of born with it and he had it, but he also had to go through trials and tribulations himself. Okay? Rey's just getting power. Just, hey, here you go, Rey. Here's a new power set. All right. Hope you have fun with it. And it's like, wait, why? This isn't a hero I'm interested in. I'm not interested in this hero. I'm not interested in this character. Okay. Like I keep saying, Finn had a far better arc. He should have been the story. He should have been the focal point of the sequel trilogy. I'm just going to leave it at that. Learning about the mysterious energy that is connected to the fabric of that world. Yeah, again, you got to grow, okay? You got to grow and you got to have actual growth, okay? There is no growth here. She's just getting powers out of nowhere. In The Rise of Skywalker, Rey reaches even further heights with her Force abilities, empowered by past Jedi. Like, he's literally calling her a Mary Sue.
Every Jedi who ever lived lives in you.
The Force surrounds you, Rey.
Let it guide you. Guide it us.
Feel the Force flowing through you, Rey. Let it lift you.
Rise,
We stand behind you, Rey.
rise in the Force.
The heart of a Jedi lies her strength. Rise.
Rey, the Force will be with you. Always.
This chick didn't do anything to get them past powers, okay? Empowered by past Jedi. She didn't train. She didn't do nothing, okay? The past Jedi said, here you go, okay? Again, everything comes easily, okay? Wish fulfillment. Oh, I wish somebody would just empower me, okay? That's basically what you're calling her a Mary Sue without realizing it. This guy's a dope. She is able to redirect Palpatine's Force lightning and defeat the greatest threat to the universe. This is a moment of utter triumph, though the way she achieved the victory has raised similar Mary Sue protestations. How could Rey pull off what other Jedi in the Star Wars universe have been unable to achieve? However, that critique misunderstands one of the most important aspects of Star Wars as a whole, the strengthening of future generations. This guy's making, again, it's just a certain point of view, okay? This is all a certain point of view. Oh, well, you know, this is about the strengthening of future generations. The whole point of teaching a new generation is so they can surpass those before them. Wow. And yes, but how you go about doing it, that's the key, okay? Obi-Wan was only able to defeat Darth Maul because he saw why his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, could not. Anakin became the greatest duelist of his generation after learning from and defeating previous holders of that title. Luke's absurd Force abilities were a direct legacy of generations of study and history into the mystery of the Force. I mean, you could say Luke was just kind of born with it, right? Because he came from Anakin, and Anakin was powerful in the Force, so maybe he was powerful as well based on that. Okay, you could say that. What about Rey? Rey is the direct successor to the most powerful and adept line of Jedi that the franchise has ever seen. When people get the best teachers and resources, they tend to have quite an advantage when it comes to their competitors. This is all BS. This is all of this is BS right here, okay? Again, you just said she was just empowered by past Jedi. Like past Jedi spoke to her and just gave her some powers so that she could just pop up and beat Palpatine. That's basically what happened. I mean, again, it's utterly ridiculous. To some, it may seem unfair that Rey feels like one of the most powerful characters in the galaxy. After years of being connected to Luke and Anakin, the unfamiliarity of Rey and loyalty to previous characters makes sense, but the spirit of those previous Jedi would disagree. What? Who cares what the Jedi? Oh my Lord in heaven. It was the greatest Force users of the previous generation that entrusted Rey to complete her destiny and save the universe from Palpatine. If Anakin, Luke, Obi-Wan, and Yoda and other Jedi legends trusted Rey, it's time for the fans to do the same. What the fuck is this guy talking about? This might be the dumbest thing I've read in this article of dumb things, okay? If Anakin, Luke, and Obi-Wan accepted her, oh, well, if these guys accepted Rey, then it's time for you fans to accept Rey. These are fictional characters, my dude, okay? I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Maybe you live too much in the Star Wars land. These are not real people, okay? So it doesn't matter whether or not they trust Rey, accept Rey, or anything within the context of the story. It's a written story. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, this actually gets right to the heart of the matter, right? It's not about these characters in this fictional universe. It's about how Rey is received by the actual real world, okay? Real people. How do real people feel about the character of Rey, okay? Not these dudes, okay? These dudes don't matter. Look, you could write every character in this universe to fall in love with Rey, okay? To love Rey. That's what they say again. The Mary Sue, everybody loves this character. And just to remind you guys of what this guy's own definition of Mary Sue was, right? Characters that were so, consistently perfect that the other characters would fawn all over them. Oh, man, they trust Rey. They respect Rey. It's time for the fans to do it, okay? This guy is literally proving that Rey is a damn Mary Sue in his own arguments. It's ridiculous, man. Bro, Find some other line of work. You cannot do this. If Anakin, Luke, Obi-Wan, and other Jedi legends trusted Rey, what the fuck? This is stupid, man. This guy is stupid, okay? You can write your character to be loved by everybody in your story, but you can't make the fans love that character, okay? Everybody in the story can love Rey. It don't mean the fans are gonna love him. So look, let me get to the brass tacks. What's the major difference between Rey and Luke? What's the main problem, okay? Luke is likable and relatable, and Rey is not, okay? Rey is not. This guy literally just explained why people don't like this character. He literally calls her a Mary Sue throughout this entire article, all right? And he doesn't realize that's what he's doing. But none of this is really why Rey is not beloved, okay? They could have literally washed all the Mary Sue away, all right, from the character of Rey, and she would have probably just been merely palatable, okay? All right, we could deal with this, all right? This is okay, all right? But she wouldn't be beloved, all right? And the thing is, Luke wasn't simply loved because of his Star Wars exploits, because of his ability to use the Force, because of all of this stuff. It was his character, like I've told you before, okay? The character of Luke, who he was. I want you guys to think about this. You could take this character of Luke Skywalker, the character, okay? Forget all the Jedi powers and Force and all of that. Just take the character of Luke Skywalker and drop him into another universe. People would still love this character because of who he is. I mean, yeah, his exploits matter, okay? His ability to use the Force and the Jedi and all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. It's cool. But none of that matters more than the character himself, okay? It's his nobility. Rey is unlikable on several levels. I mean, I'm just going to be real honest with you.
Yes, the Elenium system, that's the one. Get us there as fast as you can.
I'll drop you to Panema Terminal.
I need the bonding tape, hurry.
What about you?
I've got to get back to Jakku.
Back to Jakku? Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
Let's drop that one.
That place is...
No. The one I'm pointing to. No. If we don't patch this up, the propulsion tank will overflow and flood the ship with poisonous gas.
This?
Yes.
Now, this scene is cringy and annoying, and the reason why Finn should be the focal point of the sequel trilogy, because Finn is actually a lot of fun here, you know, and he's displaying real emotions. He's displaying fear. He has some humor to him, a sense of humor. His concern for Rey and for himself, right? There are plenty of moments in the sequel trilogy where Rey should be more humble, and she's not, or more patient, and she comes off as arrogant. Now, if this was the only flaw, let me say this. If this was the only flaw and it got corrected, it would be all right. Because then you could say, oh, that was the character growth that Rey needed. She became like she was this annoying character at the beginning and she kind of grew away from that. But this thing, it remains a character flaw, okay? Her annoying behavior just remains a character flaw for the entire trilogy. Now, this is where even Luke wasn't constantly upstaging other characters. Even in the escape from Mos Eisley, right? He shows that he's a little vulnerable, right? He's a little vulnerability, right? He's acting a little frazzled, and Han has to put him in check.
Stay sharp. There's 2 more coming in. They're going to try and cut us off.
Why don't you outrun them? I thought you said this thing was fast.
Watch your mouth, kid. You're going to find yourself floating home.
Take a few moments to get the coordinates from the Navi computer.
You kidding? At the rate they're gaining?
Traveling through hyperspace ain't like dust and crops, boy. Without precise calculations, we'd fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova and then it'd end your trip real quick, wouldn't it?
Han is like, hey, kid, why don't you grab a tall glass of shut the hell up, okay? I know what I'm doing. This is my ship, okay? Now, if this was Rey doing all of this stuff, you know she would have told Han exactly what he was doing wrong and how to fix it, right? Like she did in The Force Awakens. Now, notice in this whole scene, Rey is in complete control, complete command, never worried, calm, cool, collected, like she's been here before, right? Even though she hasn't, okay? She's been living on a desert planet as a scavenger for her entire life. She should have been shell-shocked in awe of everything that was around her, everything that was happening, all right? Or at the very least, like Luke, okay? Not trying to upstage the pros constantly. Give her some vulnerabilities that we as people can relate to, okay? It was like the writers were so desperate to show that Rey was just this capable badass, just like Han, all right? She's out here finishing his sentences and everything, right? And before long, she's the one giving him instructions. I'm sorry, but this stuff just comes off as bullshit to fans, okay? People ain't trying to watch this. This is, again, that wish fulfillment girl boss crap, all right? That the girls, oh, this is wonderful, we love it, when the girl stands up to the big strong man, okay? But it comes off as crap. It feels like the agenda, okay? It feels like an agenda is afoot. And you know, maybe if some of this stuff isn't here, then maybe Rey is more relatable, okay? Maybe she's more of a palatable character, okay? But she still isn't better than Luke, okay? But the fact that they forced her, like she had to be the center of attention, right? Even in situations where she should be an absolute fish out of water and have no idea what she's doing, they made sure, oh, no, Rey is in complete control. She knows exactly what she's doing. This is the difference between her and Luke, okay? Luke feels authentic, Rey doesn't. Fans will always find something to criticize, and while that can come in a place of love for the media, it can quickly devolve into echo chambers of negativity that tarnishes the reputation of characters that don't deserve it. Even if you're the staunchest hater of Rey, take a moment to step back from those predisposed ideas and look at her character again. Ultimately, Rey's actions and development through this trilogy, as well as Ridley's phenomenal acting, are integral reasons why Star Wars continues to be massively successful. So if you're excited about all the new works coming to the historic franchise, let's give some gratitude to the character that has reawakened the Force in all of us. Yeah, like I said, all this guy did was just show how all the fans were right about Rey being a Mary Sue. I'm just going to keep it 100%. Why this character never caught on, why the Mary Sue-ness of Rey just continually shines through like a beacon of light, it really just comes down to the writing, okay? Luke and Anakin, they had questionable stuff. I'm not going to say that they didn't, okay? But it's hidden by excellent characterization and excellent storytelling, okay? Luke specifically has a very compelling through line that supersedes the entire story about the rebellion versus the Empire, and we see it right here for the first time.
I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
I wish I'd known him.
Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough, but your uncle wouldn't allow it. He feared you might follow old Obi-Wan on some damn fool idealistic crusade like your father did.
How did my father die?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father.
So right there, his father was a Jedi that was murdered by Vader, right? And then after Luke's entire existence is destroyed, right, we hear him say this.
I want to come with you to Alderaan. There's nothing for me here now. I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
Boom, right there. There's the story, an interesting story, right? About a character, okay? Luke Skywalker, okay? A character, like I said before, who knows who he is, all right? Luke Skywalker knows who he is. This story is about what he will become, okay? A Jedi like his father, right? That's the story we're interested in. Even if you were all into the space battles and everything like that, okay? In the back of your head, you were interested in this particular story about Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Even though they technically didn't really meet and have any conversations in the first film, but that became the thrust of the entire story, the entire first trilogy, right? Like even in the mini encounter that they did have, it didn't stop there, right? Because we do know that eventually Luke and Vader will have to meet, right? So at the outset, right, their first sort of encounter.
The Force is strong with this one.
Vader didn't say that to a character, okay? He's kind of talking to himself. It might be, maybe he's talking to the little pilots. I don't think the pilots cared, you know? I think that's a message to the audience, okay? That's not a message to anybody else but the audience. Vader is basically telling all of us that Luke Skywalker is about to be a problem, okay? This guy is formidable. He is worthy. And then what happens? He blows up the Death Star. And at that moment, we are attracted to the character of Luke Skywalker, not because he's this wish fulfillment character. It's not even because of his Jedi mastery, because we've seen his pain. We know his uncle and aunt. We know what happened with his father, or we think his father is dead, and this guy killed him, okay? And then he kills his mentor, right? The guy that was going to bring him closer to the father and train him in the ways of the Force, right? He killed that guy, gone. And then he comes back and he gets Vader right where it hurts. And now we're interested in this character. We like the character. Yeah, the exploits are there, but it's all of the little things, the story points that have been layered out there. What's going on with Rey, right? What's going on with Rey, right? First, she's like, what, Luke's daughter, maybe, okay? Then she's a nobody from nowhere, okay? Then she becomes, oh, she's a Palpatine. She was a Palpatine all along, okay? And then we go back, oh, actually, she's a Skywalker again, okay? Look, we can't get jiggy with that shit, all right? People want real writing. This is dumb, idiotic writing. I'm sorry, all right? Pointless crap because J.J. Abrams is just a mystery box loving hack, all right? This guy can't write his way out of a paper bag, and all of this stuff about self-discovery, and we spent 3 films going through this self-discovery angle, and Rey really isn't a Skywalker, and honestly, we still don't know who she is, okay? We've gotten to the end, and we're no further into understanding this character than where we were at the beginning. Like, for example, consider the end of their respective journeys. Like I said, both characters went on their own individual journeys. Rey was a path of self-discovery. Luke was a path of becoming who he was supposed to be, okay? So consider the ending of these particular paths and how this played out on screen.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi. Like my father before me.
And I... I'm all the Jedi. No!
What does that even mean? Like, I can understand the first part, right? You know, I am a Jedi like my father before me. Okay, got it. I am all the Jedi. What does that mean? Does that mean I have all the powers of the Jedi? Does that mean I'm the spiritual center of the Jedi? I represent all Jedi, past, present, future, okay? I have the complete knowledge of every Jedi out there. I am what all Jedi aspire to be. What the heck does I am all the Jedi mean? You see, it's open to interpretation. Luke, straightforward and relatable, all right? Rey, gobbledygook and pretentiousness. That's what that's where it comes off to me anyway. But anyway, folks, what do you think about this whole situation? Rey being unloved, okay? Maybe not unloved, but not as loved as Luke Skywalker, okay? They'll never achieve that, okay? Because they don't know how to write this character. This character is sloppy, boring, lazy writing, okay? Mary Sue, this article literally just proved that Rey is a Mary Sue. I think, again, it's proof positive that Luke is just the superior character, okay? In the way that he was written. There's just nothing that they can do about that. They can whine and complain. This guy can write more articles and then go into the article, and it proves that she's a Mary Sue literally by the stuff he's saying. I thought that's just hilarious. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Go ahead, drop down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and your opinions on that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.